Warning: the following episode is a work of fictional horror and may contain numerous horror elements, such as mentions of significant bodily harm, death, gore, otherworldly beings and powers, and sudden loud noises. This episode will also include elements of transphobia directed at one fictional character in Dr. Robin's segment, Declassify D-Class Survival Guide. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, I guess I'm finally back. Sorry for being away last week, but if you missed that episode, I guess you never even noticed. See, when I came on this show, it was my job to be honest, but hopeful, to give you advice for how to survive as we rebuild the world. Obviously, we've gotten some doubt on this mission from many of our listeners, as there's only 3 of us here. But when I say we, that was meant to reference the Foundation as a whole, the group who has the mission of keeping the world safe and who we're a part of. That's how we've been operating. We do our part and we do our research and get our data and talk to you, all while the Foundation, who certainly knows of the show by now, fixes things in the background. And what did that bring us? 2000 is dead. Olympus Mons is gone haywire, and Antashesha is active, and we've bloody well seen Sam Howell ourselves. Certain you've heard his voice at least once. So now we need to start behaving as this world is not a pandemic but endemic. That this is our future. So to start things off, I have to set some things right. And maybe start a new chapter here at Site 230 as well. Things aren't going to change from where they are now, and we'll still do our part, don't get me wrong, but I think it's time I gave Tess, and any former D-Class listening to this, an apology. You doubtless have heard about how poorly D-Class individuals were treated at the various Foundation sites.
Yeah, you could say that again.
Yeah, well, look, I think it's time that you, as the public, learn about what a D-Class was and how they were treated. We can't exactly heal as a site or an organization without at least acknowledging that. And in learning this, you'll hopefully learn about a large number of various skips, anomalous items, and people that you can encounter out in the wild. Think of this as a twofold episode. So, here's what we're gonna do. Sera will be opening us up with telling you about what a D-Class really is, and possibly seeing how they were treated by exploring other, hopefully now abandoned, sites. Don't worry, unlike Site 2000, we actually did check these ones in advance. Then we're going to go to our former D-Class, Tess, who will talk about her own treatment and answer your questions and take the time to enforce herself as a person, not just a D-Class.
Former D-Class, but yeah.
Right. Yes, correct. And then it's going to go to me. I'm going to report on a document that was provided to us, honestly, quite a long time ago by Dr. Anderson Harper, who was the last Site 56 director before this all happened. They were also a former humanoid containment specialist, former mechanical containment specialist, and the former director of Site 2677. They were quite experienced, to say the least. You might be wondering why we're not using our own files from Site 230 on this, but I personally believe that this file here is better written, more accurate, and a more succinct take of what it's like as a D-Class. Besides, compared to other sites, Site 230 has had relatively few D-Class personnel, and we treated them relatively better.
Sorry, relatively better?
Well, look, I'm not saying the treatment was good. That's why I'm doing this apology after all. But compared to Site 56 and most of the other sites under the Foundation, we rank near the top for having the fewest dangers, the lowest medical incidence rates, and most definitely some of the lowest mortality rates.
You know, the fact that the Foundation ranks their sites by the mortality rate of their D-Class personnel is exactly the problem that we're dealing with.
I know. I agree there.
Okay, well, I am super excited to see how you handle the file then. We're done here. Let's just go to Sera.
Howdy, survivors! I'm Sera, your guide for all things D-Class at the Foundation, or whatever we are now. Right now, I'm en route to Site 56. In its prime, this facility was responsible for the second most special containment projects in the United States, including a ton of unregistered anomalies. So, it's huge! It consists of 3 facilities, each with many floors. It's also super old. I believe the Foundation started building it in 1965. Site 56 has also been infamous for their handling of D-Class personnel. It topped all facilities in employee turnover rates and higher than average ethics violations. So that's great. Today, we're hoping that checking out the site can shed some light on what exactly influenced the less than ideal environments for staff. But honestly, I don't know if the Foundation really would even consider D-Class respectable enough to be called staff. That's not my personal view, of course. I think that anything or anyone that's not trying to immediately kill me deserves respect. Heck, even some of those who might be trying to kill me deserve respect, as long as they have a good reason. Tess, my only friend of sorts, is a D-Class, and I don't know what I'd do without her. She's not exactly the kindest person I've ever met, but after what I can only imagine she's been through, who am I to really blame her? Anyway, today I'm starting out by checking out Facility A at Site 56. This is the primary containment site, along with administration and a mess hall. Basically, everything we're looking for. Information, and more importantly, food. Priority number 1 is apparently information. Although some of us and our tapioca needs beg to differ. So let's begin with the administration wing on floor 3. Oh geez, what happened here? It's an office, and there's various knickknacks lying all over the floor. There's some almost solved Rubik's Cubes over in the corner there. There's sand from a Zen garden dusting the carpet. And the clickety-clackety balls thing is missing one of the balls?
You mean a Newton's cradle?
And a bunch of frames of family photos are crooked all over the walls. Some are lying on the floor. I feel like I should go write those.
Greetings.
Ah! A sudden electronic noise. I'm sure that's gonna bode well.
Oi, over here on the desktop.
I'll probably regret this. I'm gonna go check out the computer anyway. What the heck? Is that an animated cartoon of the SCP logo? Always a good sign, of course, especially during the end of the world.
Hello, I'm a Foundation-made artificial intelligence designed for the express purpose of handling XK-class end-of-the-world scenarios. I'm here to help. Now, I probably know what you're thinking, but don't worry, I'm no HAL 9000. No, I've been designed to take a people-focused approach to containment breaches such as, well, you know, this. Okay, running a few scans. You're Agent Sera, correct? Field agent with Site 230, currently assigned to investigating information regarding D-classes. I know I'm correct, but did I get it right?
Yeah, that would be me. And I am here gaining details on D-class treatment, but how did you know that?
All right then.
Equipment warning. Class 4 memory loss cognito hazard detected.
Oh geez, what happened here? It's an office with various knickknacks lying all over the floor. There's a bag of chips spilling onto the floor over in the corner. A slightly cracked snow globe is dripping down the side of a desk. Wait, is that the SCP logo?
Greetings.
Ah! What are you?
Oh dear, I'm so sorry about that. You're Agent Sera, correct? Field agent with Site 230, currently assigned to investigating information regarding D-classes? So, Agent, can you explain what passes for a definition of D-class these days?
Sure. Of course. So, to start out, by Foundation definitions, D-class are, and I quote, expendable personnel used to handle extremely hazardous anomalies. I'd say usually D-Class are used to do the hard stuff no one else wants to do. This usually consists of things like testing with SCPs.
And do you think that's fair?
I'm not so sure it's my place to answer that.
Huh.
Equipment warning. Class 4 memory loss cognito hazard detected.
Oh, geez, what happened here? It's an office, but there's various knickknacks lying all over the floor. There's a cactus fallen out of its pot with dirt spilling onto the floor in the corner. And is that a pile of playing cards scattered on the desk? But there's only a queen of spades facing up. That's probably not a good omen.
Greetings.
Ah! Is that an animated SCP logo?
Agent Sera.
Wait, how do you...
Could you please continue detailing the definition of a D-Class for me? They're expendable personnel used for testing SCPs, correct?
Sure? I guess I'm here to do that anyway. So, you're mostly correct. But also, by Foundation rankings, D-Class personnel are more or less the lowest ranked staff members. They're not really even considered staff because they're not paid and they're not exactly volunteers. They're more forcefully conscripted into aiding the Foundation in its endeavors.
Do you think they should be respected and treated as proper staff, Sera?
Well, I don't believe they undergo the necessary training to be full Foundation personnel.
I see.
Equipment warning. Class 4 memory loss cognito hazard detected.
Oh, geez, what happened here? It's an office, but there's various knickknacks lying all over the floor. There's a Buddha statue toppled in the corner of the room, and a mug with a beagle printed on it is spilling coffee down the side of the desk over there.
Greetings.
Ah! Is that an animated...
SCP logo. Yes, I am. And you're Agent Sera. You're going to explain where D-Class personnel come from for us, please?
I'm sorry, what? Okay. So, D-Class personnel are typically drawn worldwide from the ranks of prison inmates convicted of violent crimes, especially those on death row. In times of duress, though, Protocol 12 may be enacted, which allows recruitment from other sources, such as political prisoners, refugee populations, and other civilian sources. That can be transferred into Foundation custody under plausible, deniable circumstances.
In your opinion, Agent Sera, should individuals be given the opportunity to properly consent to the role of D-Class?
Well, yeah, I mean, I personally think that everyone should be given the opportunity for informed decision-making.
Understood.
But in this case, I would be worried about the Foundation's losses in D-Class recruitment.
Understood.
Equipment warning. Class 4 memory loss cognito hazard detected.
Oh, geez! What happened in here? It's an office, but there's various knickknacks lying all over the floor. There's a cake with pink icing, and it's splattered all over the floor. And there's an antique teapot, but the lid is another antique teapot? Anyway, it's spilling all over the desk over there.
Greetings.
Ah! What is that?
Animated SCP logo, details about D-Class, yada yada yada. Can you please just address what happens to D-Class after a month of service?
Right. Well, I guess I do know that. So, per official records, Class D personnel are to be given regular mandatory psychiatric evaluations and are to be administered an amnestic of at least Class B strength, or terminated at the end of the month at the discretion of on-site security or medical staff.
Are you confident that is factually correct, Agent Sera?
I think so.
I have something to share with you, Agent. SCP-2193, Object Class Keter. Special Containment Procedures. The Artificial Intelligence Application Division, AIAD, is to monitor the Foundation database for instances of SCP-2193-1. The instances are to be logged and removed, and the holding sites, if applicable personnel, will be required amnestic therapy. Provisional Site 5, and Observation Site are to be exempted from this procedure in order to facilitate observation of the phenomena. Contact with these sites at any level, whether through in-person visits or simply phone-email communication, is restricted to prevent further contamination of mission-critical sites.
I'm sorry, what are you talking about? I've never heard of that.
Let's try this in a way you will understand.
Description: SCP-2193-1 is an infohazardous anomaly affecting the documentation for items and entities in the Foundation database. It often appears in the object's special containment procedures or addenda, and references an operation referred to as the monthly termination of Class D personnel. No evidence for the initial adoption or implementation of such a policy exists in any Foundation records, as verified by an RAISA investigation into all prior O5 and Administrator mandates and SDE COT-W resolutions.
Oh my god. This is awful. We have been terminating D-Class for no reason?
It's time to open all your eyes and get educated. Take this back to the team at Site 230. It should be informative.
Thank you?
Good luck!
Dr. Robin, I found this audio transcript at Site 56. I believe it's on topic with the whole exploring D-Class files theme thing we have going on today.
Well, that's convenient. Exactly how many D-Class files are there at Site 56?
Well, they did go through a massive restructuring in how they handle their D-Classes before this all went down. Maybe that was a part of it?
Well, they did surpass us in ranking suddenly, so I guess that finally answers that question. Okay, play the file.
On it.
Excuse me? Please? If you would all just turn your attention... Okay, settle down. I need to... If I could just have your... Quiet. I said quiet. Will you all just please... I said shut the fuck up! Now that I have your attention, we may begin. I am Junior Assistant Researcher I said shut the hell up! Okay, like I was saying, I will be leading your orientation today. Now, you may all be wondering where you are. That's classified. You may also be wondering who we are. That is also classified. However, I can tell you that we are a form of a research facility. As you may remember, one of our agents approached each and every one of you and gave you an offer. You could either wait out your term on death row, or you could volunteer to participate in our testing facilities for the span of 1 month. Obviously, you agreed to cooperate. This entails... What? What do you mean you didn't agree? We told you that if you participate, you're free to go at the end of the month. Who wouldn't take a deal like that? Guard, excuse me. Guard, please take him... Yeah, that one to the... Yeah, the third door to the left. Thank you. Like I said, if you can make it through the testing procedure, No, I don't hear any screaming. If you can make it through the testing procedures, we let you go at the end of the month. You know, provided you cooperate fully. Sounds like a good deal, right? Was there anyone who didn't agree? Okay then, moving on. Like I said, provided you can survive the entire month, you get to go free. No, of course it's not a death sentence. No, see, when I said survive, I meant it like cooperate with us, you know? I mean, yeah, it's dangerous stuff. That's why we're using death row inmates. No, most of the stuff here is pretty harmless. I meant dangerous, like, you know, the way a bomb is dangerous if you fuck around with it. I mean, you will be fucking around with it, but you should be pretty safe if you just do what we tell you. Worst thing that'll happen is your toes will tingle a few minutes afterwards. Last batch of D-Class, not a single one died. All got to go free at the end of the month. I was there too. Watched them scamper back into the wilderness myself, like a bunch of adorable homicidal kittens. Just do what we tell you, and you'll get to go home and see your loving wife and kids. Well, not you. Says here you killed your wife and kids. Must have been awkward to explain to the in-laws, eh? No, I really don't want you to tell us how you did it. I can guess. Right. At the end of the orientation, you will be directed down the hall where you will get your numerical designation tattooed on your wrist and chest. This will be mostly painless, and once you... Huh? Why your chest? Well, in the event of an explosion, it's most likely that it'll be the largest intact chunk of meat left. I'm joking. Of course I'm joking. Yes, I'm sure. That is very, very unlikely to happen. We haven't had an explosion for the past 2 months. Look at him. You thought I was serious? But, no. You will actually be getting your designation tattooed on your chest. I was not joking about that. Well, if you want, you can get it removed at the end of the month. No charge at all. It's a pretty painless procedure, actually. Okay, once you get your new tattoo, you will be escorted to D Block Alpha 6. This will be your new dormitory. You will eat, sleep, and bathe here. No, you are spoiled in prison. You will not be getting your own cell. I don't even have my own office, and you want your own cell? Anyway, you will be under constant video surveillance to ensure no shenanigans. We don't want any of that funny jail time business here. You shank someone, you will be escorted back to behind the chemical, back to death row. Pretty much, if you piss us off, you get sent back to death row. Yeah, seriously, a month of testing and you go free. Don't screw it up. Okay, that pretty much wraps it up. Any questions? You with the... Good lord, man, did you take a round of buckshot to the face? Yeah, your question. Sure, we have a fantastic team of doctors here. Best in the world. Don't worry about your medical insurance here. It won't matter anyways. Next. You. Second in the back. No, it's too late to choose death row over here. I don't know why you'd want to in the first place. Well, you've got a giant swastika carved into your face, so I don't think you're the best at making life decisions. One more. Yes, you. The one missing the ear? That's not really a question. No, phrasing it to ask how many she can fit doesn't count as a question. My mother was a saint. If you say one more word... Guard, please, if you could... There we go. No, it's fine. I'll send the janitor down later. See? Just stay in line and cooperate. 1 month, and you're gone. Never have to see this place again. Really, that's simple. Alright, the next batch of Ds are coming down now. Guards, if you could escort them out, please. That's right, Alpha 6. Okay, thank you very much. Really, I don't care what he said. She was a saint. Yeah, let me know when this batch gets released this month. I want to watch. Welcome, I am Junior Assistant... Really now, please, quiet down.
Huh. So this is a real talk that they gave to their D classes? Damn.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's time for us to go to Tess with her segment.
Alright, back to me, I guess. Let's do the questions stuff first. Oh, wait. Okay, I'm not answering any questions about Dr. Robin or where he went or if he's a god. No, actually. And I don't know why all of these mention Howl. Whatever. How about what the fuck was the roar when Sera was exploring Yellowstone? Oh, I know exactly. I know what this was. That was the hard to kill lizard. He's invincible and hates humans, which is why he was roaring at Sera. But in general, he's trapped underground, so people are mostly safe. Okay, seriously. Why don't you go out and explore? I know you said you feel everything, but doesn't Sera too? Cool, great. Thanks. Would you like to sign up for infinite amounts of suffering without end in case something goes wrong? Because at least Sera can die if something goes really terribly wrong. I would just be out there in pain until who the hell knows when. Not to mention, once again, I have no training. So, we're just gonna not answer any of these questions anymore. We aren't gonna do that. Okay? I am here, I am doing this, and this is the most that I can do. Oh, I missed one of the Robin questions about where did Robin go last week? Hell if I know. I don't. Kinda tried asking, but really not having it in terms of giving an actual answer, which, once again, I don't know why I'm surprised at that part. Actually, there's a pile of questions. Wait. Here. These were questions that have been coming in over the last little bit, and I figured they weren't really important because they're about D-Class and what it's like and everything like that, and it's not really something that... I don't know, I guess now is a good time to answer these ones. Okay. What experiments did they run on you? I don't remember most of them because of the amnestics. I know some people would use journals and do all that, but I guess I never found that would have been useful, or at least I've never found a journal that I've written in for that. So I don't really know. Did your experience as a D-Class hurt? They were just starting to figure out the whole unable to die thing when the whole XK thing happened. So some of them hurt, but luckily that didn't seem to last for very long, I guess. But yeah, no, we're gonna avoid that topic of conversation as well, actually. Why can't you remember your past? Okay. There's the whole... I don't know how much everyone else knows about amnestics. Basically, they give you stuff that makes you forget, and to start out, they kind of just did a whole blank slate for me. So, I don't know why, but I know that that's how, I guess. Oh yeah, there's this one. Is it possible for me to become a D-Class now? No. The world ended. There's not really a foundation to make more right now. So, no. They do keep doing it. I can and will punch someone about it, though. Oh yeah, there was this one, too. 1 second. Yeah, this one came in an envelope. I don't really know how. But... What? This is me. I don't... God damn, this is an audio platform, and I'm sitting here with something physical in front of me that you guys can't see, and I still feel the need to explain to you guys, what this is. Shit. It looks like a driver's license. And it's me. I don't understand how it's me, in fairness. But Elizabeth Jordan's. Is that who I was? Who sent me this? This segment is done. Robin can take back over. Alright, site director man thing. Let's hear your file now.
All right. Well, it's time to discuss what it's like being a D-Class. As I've said prior, they've had it pretty rough, and many of them are out there right now, still alive, possibly turned into near gods or understandably jaded at their experiences. While it's not their fault that this happened to them, it's important to remember that many of these individuals are former convicts that have undergone immense trauma since their conviction. For those of you out there, hopefully this information proves at least useful, and hopefully, by knowing about it better, we can prevent such horrors from happening again. There. How's that?
Fine, I guess. Just play the file.
D952. Please step forward.
Veronica Fitzroy stepped forward, wincing at the bright light. She'd have assumed that techno-fascist mad scientists would have worked on getting a better mugshot system, but hey, if some shadowy facet of the US government really did have need for meat through the grinder, it was a small price to pay for escaping life in a men's prison. But it'd be over soon. She'd lost everything, botched suicide, and let bandages get away with everything. But it'd be over soon. That made her happy, at least. Even after the homophobia, drone strikes, and regressive tax laws, the US government always had one last way to fuck the world. The Foundation's best idea for an experiment was to put 20 murderers in the same room with 3 stooges who could barely operate a musical instrument. The only thing that could make it worse was if they were a Rush cover band, which, in fact, they were, because life was just a series of practical jokes. Perhaps as part of the experiment, or perhaps as torture, several instruments have been scattered around the room for the rest of her merry band to play. Some, inexplicably, had already begun banging out Canada's sticks without a care in the world. Certainly without a care for music theory and its application. How anyone with half a functioning nervous system could stand for simultaneous, which was rather generous phrasing for a couple of offbeat lunatics, renditions of 2112 was anyone's guess. With every off-key shred, NP Rock ate at the pit of her stomach and at the back of her mind. Veronica was almost glad when, getting up to smack the drummer in the face, one of the mall cops finally dragged her out. She could have been a professor by now if she hadn't gotten sidetracked, teaching undergraduates basic engineering equations by day, getting high off mushrooms and fucking the music theory teacher by night. Maybe Ashley'd still be alive then. Her mind was wandering. It did that these days. Wasn't like the problem before her deserved her attention. It was a shitty problem, written on shitty paper. At least to Veronica, it was immediately clear that the whole process was objectively incorrect. Number theory didn't work like how this little bugger supposed it did, and several portions were straight up nonsense. That they expected her to write an analysis of the problem as if it made sense was nearly nonsensical. But then, things rarely made much sense anymore. Veronica decided to take the inverse sign of said nonsense number and explicitly found herself accosted by an angry grizzly bear. D7294 looked up as a tall, chestnut-haired, dyed blue of course, that always bonded well, especially with a dye job that horrid. Girl was deposited into his cell. Smiling, he deposited his book, Die Klaverspielerin, a little reward for good behavior, to the wayside as he gave the poor girl a look over.
Hello. Are you still 1285 or am I speaking to fresh meat?
The girl had an ugly laugh, somewhere between Baba Yaga and those dead-eyed video stars he used to watch in his free days, ending in a smile that never reached her eyes. Eyes not quite dead, but not quite alright. But the disposables were rarely an alright folk.
Do I look fresh to you?
Fresh is relative. Frankly, you look like roadkill that hasn't died.
The second card would be coming soon enough. Girls this fragile rarely lasted, especially the ones who pissed off HR hard enough to earn a cell with D7294.
Yeah?
7294 swore he could spot the slightest bit of bemusement on the wretch's face.
Dead on.
The bemusement faded quickly from the girl's face as she collapsed in a slump in the corner.
Just waiting for the right thing to do me in. Fucking taking them long enough, though.
7294 almost felt something. A vestige from a dozen lifetimes past, perhaps. The memory drugs rarely erase the imprint that memories left. What a dumb animal.
Let me ruin the surprise then. You don't get out.
The girl barely stirred at that. She probably already knew that tidbit.
Nothing here just kills you. And if it does, you'll go to hell like everyone else.
Somewhere in the diary he kept, 7294 assured himself that hell was an eternity in one's corpse. He still can't remember why. Another ugly chuckle. She could certainly stand to be broken.
Yeah, maybe. But let a woman dream, alright?
7294 was surprised. The most put together thing about the girl was the uniform. She may have been a head taller, sure, but the Foundation had made her small. Still, such was the price of climbing a mountain of sandpaper.
Dreams are for children. The Foundation breaks both in time. So I suggest you make them like you before they start placing you with more interesting experiments. But a moot point. I believe your next experiment will be the one that brings you down.
When the girl finally looked back up, D7294 swore he could finally see something approaching humanity in her face.
You think?
Well, little lady, some people you can just tell. All in context clues, of course.
At one point, the girl might have had the left half of her head shaved. Even with hair growing back in, the bruising was readily apparent. How she avoided concussion was anyone's guess.
Since you don't appear to be new, that means you've gone through quite a bit of tests. Tell me, what's your name?
Veronica.
I meant your real name?
Veronica. And if you're going to be like this, we're not going to make for very good roommates.
D7294 sighed, mostly to keep an appearance. The girl's response wasn't all that expected.
Okay then. My name is D7294. Your name used to be Veronica. What is it now?
Oh, we're going prisoner level metaphors here. Well, my number is 952. My name remains Veronica, okay? It's a nice name. I picked it out myself.
And this?
The flourish was instinctual. Symphonic habits die hard.
This is why I know they don't like you. Whoever you used to be it some vegan mustard peddler or B-movie stunt double, that ended the moment you were handed a life sentence. Here, you're D952. You're a lab rat, and refusing to walk the maze means they'll dissect you instead.
D952 barely reacted as 7294 ambled over to her slumped form.
They've already put you through some tough ones, haven't they?
She sneered as he loomed over her, of course. He couldn't say he liked her stubbornness, but she'd break, eventually. The girl didn't look like the type to bend.
Well, now they've groomed you for serial femicide.
Barely winced at that, probably glad she was getting attention in the first place.
Next is something a little deadlier than me, and a little less pleasant. You've put yourself in a corner. Fighting will make that corner smaller.
D7294 recognized the stare 952 was giving him, a recalcitrant glare that sought to replace both action and rhetoric in a situation where this girl had neither. These days, 7294 was rarely in the position to receive one of these.
Veronica's dead, and none of her friends are here to care for D952.
And with that, D952 finally began to cry. D7294 always dreaded new roommates. More often than not, they interrupted his daily routine with incessantries. Thankfully, D592 stayed quiet. Time was hard to count in the Foundation, so one went by events instead. 4 sets of stretches, 200 crunches, a piss break, a few chapters of his favorite book, and 3 lookovers of the diary, updated with every rumor and personal experience as he'd been allowed pen and paper, of course, in case they needed him for something particular. Today wasn't Sunday, so they wouldn't be allowing him to access the cello, but it helped to do the standard finger exercises just to keep the muscle memory there. It was only after he began unconsciously humming a tune that he even remembered he had a roommate.
Hey, could you be a little quiet?
D7294 couldn't help but smirk as he looked over at the disheveled mess on the bed. For all the fight she'd almost certainly spent with the Foundation, right now she couldn't even bear to face her roommate.
Am I bothering you?
Finally, D952 turned over. 7294 swore the bags under her eyes had deepened since they threw her inside, to the point where she looked less like a human and more like a pale, overgrown raccoon someone dressed in an orange jumpsuit.
Yes, you are.
What a shame.
7294 continued humming as 952 turned back over in her bed. Time didn't exist in the Foundation, but breakfast did, and it always came carefully through the hatch at the bottom of the door. Eggs and turkey sausage, plus a bit of fruit. Today was a coffee day for both of them, and while 7294 was glad to be getting out of the room, he almost pitied 952. Lizard bait was probably a best-case scenario here. The best case for the Time's continued existence, however, was the punctuality of the Foundation. Some unit of time after coffee day breakfast, which 7294 had begun to call a coffee with a K, men in white coats and black armor would come to escort either him or his roommate to whatever the men in gray suits decided they could throw disposables at. A coffee was always the same amount of time, of course. At times, 7294 even swore he could count in them. Of course, 7294 was bemused to find only one post-coffee transport squad at their door, and even more bemused when they ordered both of them out. He almost felt sorry that the mall cops that had to drag his half-dead companion out to what he could only assume was a memorable time. D7294 had learned, of course, to stand straight and look forward whenever he was being sent on these excursions. Looking like you were cooperating was, after all, just as important as the actual cooperation. Of course, he'd occasionally side-eye the containment chambers and get a glimpse of what horrors and wonders lay behind his peripheral. Maybe look out for that demented half-cat they let wander the halls, just so he doesn't have to step on it and piss off some bleeding heart orderly. There was little reason to do much else, however, until the two of them were shoved into a large room with a beanbag chair and a box. Typical. In D7294's experience, a combination of random objects was always the worst thing that they threw at you. Looking over to D7294 wasn't sure he was looking at the same person anymore. 952's posture had completely changed. Where previously she had adopted the stance of a depressed koala, 952 now stood straight, with a look of almost grim determination on her face. Moreover, she looked... There weren't many good ways to put it, but receptive was one description. The intercoms crackled to life.
D-7294, please approach and open the box.
Oh, fun. He gets to kill her. Opening the box didn't ring any diary bells, but it was nice to not die instantly. The inside of the box was a new, rich sort of plush, heavily padded and drenched in a cloyingly sweet fragrance. Most of the fragrance came from a tumbler of some sweet, brown... Oh god, no. They expected him to drink this, didn't they?
D-7294, take a sip of SPC-209 and falsely describe the experience.
Well, between this and getting fed to an overgrown peanut. It tasted good. Really good. Warm, like a good whiskey from back when he was a free man, if not quite as bold. Smooth with just the right amount of burn on the way down. Moreover, it made him feel good. Fresh as new and all of that. 7294 found himself unconsciously taking a seat in the beanbag chair.
A bit cool.
The entire time, 952 had been standing at attention for the next command, unmoving and outwardly stoic. He'd almost have mistook her for part of the room at that point, if she hadn't shivered as soon as the words left his mouth. 7294 took another sip.
Lively, but fruity.
And that's when she started getting antsy, fidgeting in place. He hadn't expected much from his half-dead companion, to be sure, but it was nice to finally break her out of her half-rigor mortis. It was only about half a minute later that she finally moved, pacing around the room in hurried steps, nervously stealing glances between 7294 and the observation camera. 7294 considered saying something else, just to make her squirm further. but the spectacle was amusing enough as it was right now, especially as 952 suddenly clutched her stomach and fell to her knees. One thing he could say, he'd never seen someone vomit fruit puree before. He could kill her, of course. Certainly that seemed to be the point of this exercise. It had been a while since they let him do that. Just say something like warm as the sun, or it's nice to drink something without a skin. Maybe she'd even be happy finally getting to die. That'd be nice, he thought, as he sipped his drink in silence. Maybe he could bend her into shape. Oh, the men in gray suits would love that. The problem child broken into a compliant doll, every agonizing contortion recorded for posterity by the men in white coats. Perhaps one day he could perform an encore. They'd turn him into a boogeyman, preying on the naughty. That too would be nice, he thought, as he sipped his drink in silence. Only after he finished his drink and found himself escorted back to the cell, did he realize that he forgot to break his silence.
Why didn't you kill me?
7294 looked up from his diary, complete with a new entry for whatever he just drank, at the former vegetable in the fruit-stained jumpsuit.
I beg your pardon.
Okay, Bundy. Let me spell this out. You're some kind of serial rapist or murderer or whatever happened to get you locked in here. Me, I'm some uppity bimbo that no one will miss. You've been given the means to horribly kill me. Instead, I end up vomiting smoothies for 10 minutes. What gives?
Was that why her voice was so annoyingly scratchy?
I could ask why you looked so keen on not dying.
The sudden shift from carrion to rabid in D952 was off-putting, to say the least. A side effect of the brandy, maybe?
Look, that's not important. I've been around the fucking block, okay? And a creepoid like you would take any fucking chance to flay the skin off my fucking arms. So what gives?
7294 didn't have an answer.
Maybe I wanted to watch you suffer more.
7294 looked back to his diary and couldn't quite focus on the words.
Who knows? Maybe you're the one who miraculously gets me to see the light. Maybe we can make love in an amateurishly written sex scene, somehow escape the Foundation, and adopt a family of adorable puppies that fix your myriad of issues, all which conveniently stem from your infertility. Or maybe, just maybe, I didn't feel like it.
7294 wasn't sure if he liked her better half dead or half mad, but he was sure of one thing: he didn't like her.
And for God's sake, what has gotten into you? Just an hour ago, you had to be scraped off your bed with a spatula.
Thankfully, that shut her up for a while. Lunch came, eventually. Fried catfish and green beans, plus a yellowed rice that was probably more salt than grain at this point. One of the guards had slipped a can of cranberry juice into one of the meals, either as a joke or a reward. Still, fruit juice didn't quite appeal to him at the moment. 7294 had learned to appreciate the silence during lunch. Small talk rarely amounted to much in Foundation care. It helped that 952 was a silent eater. Shame it only took half a post-meal coffee to ruin the quiet.
I saw a desk.
Haven't we all?
Okay, asshole. I meant a room with only a desk, sandwiched between two rooms with a chair each.
And I'm sure they have a very good reason for that.
There were a few desk rumors, of course, but that meant little when their descriptions were as disparate as this.
Do you mind telling me what this has to do with anything?
Because... Well, okay, this is going to sound really fucking stupid. That desk's got a wish-granting fairy in it.
952 was right, of course. That was stupid. It was several seconds before 7294 stopped laughing.
What's so goddamn funny, huh? You just got done making me vomit the probiotic special. Apparently, fairies are too out there for you?
The conceit wasn't quite as hilarious the second time around.
I can believe that the supernatural exists. I can believe that through some means. We are able to shape the world through its usage. What I do not believe, however, is that you share a history with a quote-unquote wish-granting fairy that inexplicably resides inside of a desk in the exact same prison you are currently trapped in.
But, I mean...
The girl certainly believed her delusion, at least. That, or she should have taken up a career in stage.
I know it's there. I've had friends who... There's a gash under it, crescent-shaped. And my friend, Jack, he has a piece of it. Fucking...
952 stopped in her tracks, realizing how ridiculous this whole affair was.
Listen. My friend made a really bad wish with a piece of that thing. We used it to hurt people. It's all still out there. Then I, used it for legalese and... hell, I don't know much about this or how I can put this into words, but I need to get to that desk so I can... God, I hate to even say this, but I have no illusions. You don't believe anything I just said. Still, do you think you could, I don't know, help me?
Help? Help her? Of course she needed this help. Here was a flighty moron unable to do anything on her own, who crumpled like wet tissue at the first sign of resistance. And yet, even still, she apparently felt the need to lash out at anything that struck her fancy. Hell, he should have killed her back there when he had the chance, where she'd actually be useful for something. She was barely more than a featherless biped with a mood disorder. Of course she needed someone to crush her back into place.
Alright, maybe I will. Under one condition.
Does it involve weird sex? That's not necessarily a no to weird sex, it's just...
7294 tried sighing hard enough to interrupt 952, but it came out more as a frustrated grunt.
Shut up. Just shut up for once. God, what is wrong with you?
952 mumbled something that wasn't quite loud enough for 7294 to hear, but that assumed he cared in the first place.
I can help you survive long enough, if that's what you're asking. Maybe I could even help you obtain an assignment to this wish-granting desk. But...
7294 stepped over to once more loom over 952. This time, she didn't sneer, and somehow he found that worse.
You will be completely obedient to me. If I'm accosted by some thug during exercise or recreation, you will draw the attention from me. If I am in need of some extra energy, you are to give me some of your food. But most importantly, just shut the fuck up when we're alone.
952 silently nodded. The sudden stillness was unnerving, but if the alternative was everything else with this girl, he'll gladly take it. Finally, sitting down, 7294 returned to his diary.
I'll give advice tomorrow, if you'd kindly buy in with your portion of your dinner. Don't worry, they expected you to die today, so there's no chance they'll stick you anywhere else.
Dinner was 6 slices of over-seasoned turkey and mashed yams.
Hello, your name is Zeke Dawn, but you go by D7294. This isn't your first time reading this, but it might as well be. Likely you've had your memories erased. Let's get a few things out of the way. 1. The supernatural exists. Yes, quite a shock, you who've had your memory wiped. Fairies are real, there are monsters under your bed, and Al Gore is likely a reptilian. However, physical laws exist alongside them, and they are the one thing these demons cannot kill. Every ghost, monster, or artifact that exists operates under a set of rules, each entirely unique to one another. That means that for every terror that longs to tear your legs off, there's an entire field of study dedicated to the combating of the said terror. Some method may be esoteric, while others may be reminiscent of the stories you've heard growing up. The fact remains, however, that through a certain set of behaviors, you can ensure with near 100% guarantee that you will not die. Knowledge is power. Therefore, record every rumor you can, underlining every truth and striking through every falsehood.
Veronica assumed this one was meant to kill her, but unless a sheaf of papers from some reject's art collection had the ability to tear her jugular out, she should be fine.
D-952, please observe the document.
Well, it appeared to be a character study of, oh fuck no. Veronica may have been stupid enough to associate with Jack and, by extension, the man in the bandages, but 7294's pictographs were pretty fucking clear on what not to do here.
Please describe the contents of the document.
Veronica spoke in visual metaphors of visual metaphors as she thought of nothing. Much to his surprise, 952 was shoved back into their shared room with nary a scratch. 7294 looked up from his copy of Les Miserables just in time for the door to slam shut.
I'm surprised you somehow survived. What did they throw at you?
952 began wriggling like an eel before putting a finger to her lips and shaking her head.
That explains quite a bit, but not about what they put you up against. For God's sakes, can't you just be normal?
Well, excuse me for being thrown in a room with a... It's a cognito hazard, right? The thing you can't know about? Fuck it.
The springs in 952's mattresses creaked as she haphazardly tossed herself into the bed. But they didn't exactly allow them to oil the damn things, did they?
God, I feel like I'm living in Kafka's nightmare sometimes.
Learn to get used to it.
Number 2. You are working for the Foundation. Not on your own free will, of course, but that hardly matters. Perhaps one day they might release you. For now, you're a glorified lab rat. Your job is to provide information on what happens when what interacts with what, with a focus on the what, why, and how. Sometimes it'll be as simple as playing a record. Other times you might be forced to clean feces off the feet of a statue. It's important to keep your wits about you, lest your skeleton is snapped into a pretzel. Of course, because you're expected to provide information, you cannot tread too carefully. If you cannot provide your captors with the information they require, then you are unfit for testing. If you're unfit for testing, they kill you. Therefore, be careful, but play the game. If things move too slow, improvise!
952's jumpsuit looked a little burnt, as did her skin. Nevertheless, the Foundation had failed to kill her today, which was nice. If only because 7294 could get more information out of a manic depressive than he could a corpse. 7294 readied his pen.
What did they throw at you today?
Okay,
For the slave of a slave, especially one covered in chemical burns, 952 looked livelier than 7294 had ever seen her.
So there's this dog, alright? And it eats things. But, well, it eats them by corroding them.
Interesting.
Corrosive dog, tested on troublemakers.
Tell me, why am I still speaking to you?
Excuse me?
This was barely worth the effort.
You survived the efforts of a corrosive canine. I am asking you how you're still standing.
Oh, I just tried teaching it some tricks. Fed it parts of my suit when needed. I think it knows how to sit now. You know, I'm not sure how I'm still alive.
Interesting.
Supernaturally lucky airhead tested on me.
For someone who wanted to die so badly, you're awfully bad at dying.
I have hope now. Can't waste it.
3. You're surrounded by humans. Humans do not make decisions through reason. Man is an entirely emotional being driven only by impulse and feeling. If the truth does not feel truthful, humans will see it as falsehood. There are no exceptions to this rule. It is extremely easy to trust someone that you like, even if it should be clear that what they're saying isn't true. After all, no one wants to admit that they've wasted time and energy on someone they could not trust. Popular truth is thus defined by the path of least resistance. Therefore, make yourself likable.
So, how have you been?
The researcher overseeing her looked up from her paperwork into the containment chamber, and more specifically at Veronica.
I beg your pardon?
You know, what's it like working here? I was always more... Fuck!
Veronica dropped the tongs, and with it the live mouse it had been holding, and the centipede who suddenly crawled up.
Sorry, one of them started climbing up, and... You know, I'll just... pick it up. Right now.
After the bugs finished eating.
You know, I used to care for lizards. I don't know if they ever ate this much.
I believe most of the energy goes into their legs. I wouldn't know. I studied marine biology.
Well, at least it wasn't a reprimand.
That's pretty tight. Don't know why they have you on centipede duty, though. I thought they'd put you on Shoggoth duty or something.
I don't think Shoggoths exist.
Oh, do I have some stories for you, Miss...
Paternoster.
Number 4. else, trust no one.
D2677 first saw 952 at one of 7294's weekly cello recitals, turning the pages for him. That's what 2677 told her, at least. She's pretty sure she'd seen him watching her before. After a bit of searching, he saw her again in the yard. They had a great time, of course. They talked and talked and talked at length. She told him her life story, her childhood in Chicago, how to tune a string instrument, and all that stuff. He told her about his time behind bars, what he did to amuse himself, hell, even a new bit on how to craft, use, and hide a shiv. Still, she left in a hurry. One day, someone slipped him a picture, and when he tried to compliment it, he suddenly wasn't there. Days turned into weeks. They stopped trying to kill her, fucking finally. At the very least, D952 Veronica rarely felt endangered. Mostly, nowadays, she got stuck with sanitation. Sure, she'd occasionally had to clean an ogre's room or transport a glass case full of tar and mass, but she was a big girl and knew her way around this kind of block. Hell, sometimes they stuck her with odd folk like the dude with the weird teddy bear or some woman with a Bane mask. Sure, she wasn't allowed to talk much, but the sights were better than plain concrete. Plus, you always felt a little safer with a shiv. Too bad they rarely lasted longer than a month. They hit her with a few drugs every now and then, not enough to dumb her down, but enough to make her forget some of the important shit she'd seen. But that's what 7294's journal was for. Plus, the desk wasn't on record anyway, so they didn't know to block that little bit out. She almost felt like she was getting used to 7294's music. Sure, it was revoltingly dissonant and depressive, but then so was Highway Ash. Besides, he was helping her get to the desk. Weeks turned into months. 952 wasn't a happy woman, of course. Still, she was happier than before. She had to be happier, right? Not being able to do things besides exercise and sleep, requested literature was given to 7294, combined with long hours of testing and regulated curfew meant 952 Veronica didn't do much but get into shape and maintain a good sleep cycle. Hell, she'd already lost a bit of weight. Veronica 952 was forced to admit, however, that the experiments were getting quite a bit weirder. Checking the circuitry of weird floodlights, finding ways to prepare a giant dopey-faced fish for eating, making tea from a statue's roots. They didn't kill her, though, and that's all that mattered. Hadn't taken her to the desk yet, sure, but, well, she wasn't sure exactly what she'd do there anyways. Months turned into years. Veronica D952 was good to those around her, and they were good to her too. Maybe not everyone, but they stopped being around her soon enough. Well, maybe not herself. She'd grown wiry over time, a result of something? Whatever. She ate what she needed to and didn't what she didn't. Her eyes, too. Bit dead, of course, but she didn't know any other trans chick who had lively eyes. Sort of a rare thing for whatever. She rarely had to worry these days. Maybe they'd force her to eat a cookie cake or drink bland chicken soup from a hateful bowl that shamed her life choices or play a children's playground game. Normal stuff you'd expect from something whose existence isn't recorded outside the deep web. But she did her job, and she did it well. After all, she had to go on, for something was wrong here. But she'd been wrong her whole life.
Please, 7294, take a seat.
Supervisor Green was a kindly-looking person, at least for a slave driver. But 9 years in the Foundation, and you get used to things you never thought you'd get used to do.
Charming office.
The office was trashy, filled with Garfield-plastered motivational posters and knickknacks, but it was better than a cell.
Pardon me asking, but is this a special occasion? Say, release? Termination?
Oh, no, nothing so dramatic. No, this is just a formality. Your roommate, D-952, is... Well, has she told you yet?
Something about 231?
7294 was surprised, given everything. He thought she'd killed herself at the first mention of a transfer.
If you know that, we're going to have to perform an impromptu amnesticization session after today, but yes, essentially. Over the past 2 years, D-952 has shown remarkable competence and loyalty with an active drive for discovery and perfectionism. She also, on a few occasions, aided the Foundation outside of standard experiments, primarily in the form of advice and a colorful background in both engineering and art. She is without a doubt a Model D class.
All thanks to himself, of course. Shame her dream was dead, but it's been dead from the start.
However, due to the sensitive nature of her assignment, I'm afraid there's still a bit of procedure the Foundation has to run through.
7294 had to suppress a chuckle as Green cut himself on a sheet of papers.
Now then, first, how long have you two shared it, your cell?
2 years plus change. Surprised we made it this far.
Well, her. 7294 hadn't survived 9 years of service for dumb luck.
Interesting. And how did she act when you first met her?
Green looked down to his paper sheaf. Already, one of the corners was stained with a drop of his own folly.
If I'm to understand, her transfer was... never mind.
He quickly moved the top paper to the back, but not quickly enough for 7294 to miss the Ethics Committee stamp.
Either way, I'm led to believe she hasn't always been cooperative.
Not at all.
Well,
There was no reason for Green to take off his glasses when he looked back at 7294. Probably just wanted to look cool.
what do you believe was the turning point, so to speak?
7294 had expected not to remember the details, of course. However, the heavy sense of frustration, flavored with disappointment, came as a bit of a surprise. The imprint memories left was rarely erased.
I believe we had just come back from an experiment. We had an argument over something unimportant.
A lie, but one he couldn't debunk himself. 7294 found he couldn't quite look Green in the eye.
And she told me that
But there, the tides of memory flow in.
she had seen a desk that she claimed that some wish-granting pixie inhabited it.
These days, 7294 rarely had the time to look at posters. The tacky Garfield ones always brought back memories of teaching kids music back in his free days. He never got how the big orange feline captured the hearts of teachers everywhere, but by golly did he worm his way into the trash heap of an unpopular pop culture. Turning back to Supervisor Green, 7294 came face to face with the face of a man who might as well just have caught his boss, his secretary, and his dog screwing his wife. An email from Agent Harper, Site Director. To Senior Researcher Ezekiel Yarkoni, Classification Level XF3. Topic, Interrogation Fruitless. Date, September 25th, 2022.
I'm not wasting monastics on a former 2521 subject who somehow isn't XX. Bomb caller. Sit down with 738. 10 minutes to explain herself. Blow her head off if the moment she says anything she shouldn't. Let's see if that jogs her memory.
952 was forced into a chair, wearing a cumbersome collar. The last time this happened was 6 years ago, and the collar wasn't beeping, and the machine wasn't assembling a desk? Veronica, 952, felt she should have been happy, but this didn't feel like a happy moment. It was a nice desk, to be sure, mahogany lined with velvet with a fancy but oppressive atmosphere to the whole thing, not exactly helped by the throne currently being lined with everything else. If 952 had to guess, this setup was pilfered from some rich asshole CEO's private estate, probably replaced by something equally ostensible. And very suddenly, the throne was occupied by a beautiful woman in an overcoat.
Yarkoni, how are you? How long's it been? 8 years since I'm back in the saddle? How's Cats doing?
Irrelevant. D-952. Do you recognize?
Is it really gonna be like that again? You may not have put a moron on the seat, but I know desire when I see it. Shame she's an ugly sack of shit, but I ain't no judge, just the lawyer.
D-952. Do you recognize the figure before you?
952 blinked and shook her head.
Course she don't, dear. I'm wearing the skin of your dead wife.
For the first time since this began, the figure made eye contact, leaving Veronica, 952, unseasonably warm.
Now, I know you got business with me. Come on. 05 promotion, immunity to SCP-3211, or what about right now? Knowledge on this.
The woman grinned, leaving 952 even warmer.
How long has it been, Joshua? Cute trick with the will. Shame it'll cost you. Yarkoni, tell you what.
Suddenly, 952 wasn't staring at a woman. She was staring at a man wrapped head to toe in bandages, as the warmth was subsumed by a horrid chill. the imprint of memory was rarely erased.
I'll spill the beans. Only price? You change his documentation to my specifications.
Very suddenly, 952 Joshua Veronica Catherine Fitzroy remembered why she wanted to see this desk so badly. Bandages had resumed talking with Yarkoni, but whatever he said, it was vile and cowardly, as if she listened to it any longer, she'd lose her chance or die. Veronica opened the desk drawer and searched. Veronica thought back to everything, every single goddamn thing that kept her from being a normal, well-adjusted person. How her heart screamed for Veronica to cleanse Joshua from her skin in every waking moment, an inadequacy abated by nothing. How those around her tried to weaponize her inadequacy, her father out of spite, Dr. Hartley out of disgust, how even those she loved never quite saw her as a normal, intact woman, and how every performative wound made in honor of them stung yet. How she'd never seen Ashy or Brad or fuck it, Jack or Izzy or Sarah again. How forgiveness remained forever out of her reach, as she's almost certainly died, buried in a brightly lit tomb of dirt, concrete, and steel, mediocre schlock, and a monument to her own failure, the only thing for the world to remember her by. And in the span of a second, all that disappeared, as Veronica took a letter opener out of a box and buried it into the bandaged man's smug fucking eye. There. That was the experiences of former D952, also known as Veronica Catherine Fitzroy. Her treatment was horrific, and is only one of thousands of experiences that D classes have had. By knowing about this, you can know about who was out there and what the world was really like before all this happened. And Tess, I'm sorry for what happened to you too. While I didn't order it, I did authorize it. I'll admit, D-class personnel were dehumanized and turned into human lab mice all across the Foundation.
Yeah. Here we go. I guess that's what I was looking for. You're not exactly forgiven, by the way, but I suppose I could say it's a good first step.
Thank you. And for those of you listening, that should cover everything you need to know on this topic. Remember our short motto: stay hidden, stay safe, stay alive. Next week, since we have spent so long on the experiences of D classes, it may be beneficial to talk about the experiences of our field agents as well, given that many of them are extremely hardy, have access to minor beneficial skips to keep them safe, and are especially trained to survive for months without any contact.
Wait, the next episode is about me?
Why not? It'll be useful to give people an overview of this type of training that field agents get, and the logs of their experiences may just prove useful to surviving out there.
Oh, wow. That's honestly an honor.
And with that, this is Dr. Robin and the team signing off. Stay safe out there. And as we close, I would like to give a special thanks to those in real life who worked behind the scenes to make this episode possible. First, I would like to thank Kevin MacLeod, who did the music that you could hear in this episode. You can listen to his music and more at incomptech.com. Next, I would like to thank the many voice actors that you heard, including Izzy, who did the role of Veronica Fitzroy, or D952, Peach, who did the role of D7294, John, who was the side narrator in that same file, Moss, who was the researcher and Supervisor Green, Esme, who was the woman in the trench coat and the narrator for the D-class orientation, and Emily, who did the role of the computer. Finally, I would also like to thank the many SCP authors whose work was used in this episode, including Uranium Empire, who wrote D7294's Declassified D-Class Survival Guide, Evicted Saint, who did the D-Class orientation, Sci-Bi, who wrote SCP-871, Uranium Empire, who wrote The Last Things Dr. Darrell Lloyd Ever Did in chronological order, and SD Locke, who wrote SCP-2193. I'd also like to thank my two co-hosts, Taya, who played the role of Sarah, and Kit, who played the role of Tess.